6:12 a.m., or maybe later. The clocks don't work, and the light outside isn't light anymore. It's a dim silver breath that moves with the pulse of the fog. I've been talking for hours, maybe days. I can't tell. The generator's long dead. The transmitter should be cold, but when I touch it, it's warm, pulsing with the same rhythm that fills the sky. The storm hasn't moved an inch. Satellite feeds, if there are any left, would show it frozen over the country like a lid. No sunrise, no horizon. Just that still, golden rim around the eye. It glows brighter now, flaring once every few minutes, like a heartbeat growing stronger. And when it does, I can hear the water outside the building whisper against the bricks. Not waves, not current, whispering. 1,000 tiny breaths against stone, saying something that isn't language. I opened the window earlier. Just a crack. The air that came in wasn't cold. It was heavy, warm, wet. It clung to my skin and stayed there. When I breathed, it breathed back. There's something new in the static tonight. It isn't the 353 pulse. It's slower. 1-2, 1-2, like a sleeping heart. But layered under it, there's a sound that doesn't belong, a low, echoing rhythm that repeats in patterns. It sounds like speech slowed 1,000 times. When I sped it up through the deck's manual crank, it formed syllables. It said, "The breath is returned." And then, "Wake." I think we were wrong about what this was. It wasn't a storm, or a god, or the sea taking back its dead. It was something older than all of that. Something that lived beneath the floor of the ocean, waiting for the right shape of silence. And when we stopped listening, when the world got loud with wires and light and chatter, it couldn't find us. Until the radios went quiet. Until now. I think that's why it's been using our breath. Every word I've spoken tonight, every transmission, every whisper you've sent back, was part of it, learning how to speak again. Maybe it isn't killing us. Maybe it's rewriting us. The fog outside is rising past the windows now. It's folding in waves, slow and calm, like an animal settling in for sleep. But within it, I can see lights. Small at first, then spreading, glowing faint blue under the surface of the mist. They move like veins under skin. People used to say that the sky and sea were enemies, always trading blows. Maybe that was never true. Maybe they were the same thing all along, separated for a while, waiting for something to draw them back together. Maybe we were what kept them apart. I keep hearing the same phrase through the static now, repeating over and over. It's in every frequency, even the dead ones. We remember the breath. And sometimes, if I lean close to the receiver, I can hear my own voice say it too. There's a glow under the floorboards. I can see it through the cracks, faint gold at first, then red, pulsing upward. When it pulses, the fog answers. When the fog answers, the water outside rises just enough to lap against the lower windows. The city's gone. The roads, the houses, the hills, all gone. It's just a slow, endless ocean now, breathing in time with the thing above it. I wonder if anyone inland is still alive. If anyone is still listening. If you are, listen closely. The silence is not empty. When it comes for you, and it will, don't fight it. Don't run. Just breathe with it. Let it find your rhythm. Let it remember you. The world doesn't end with fire or war or hunger. It ends with a sigh, long and soft and final. I can feel it moving through me now. My voice sounds different. The static no longer bites at the edges. It flows. The breath between words doesn't feel like mine. The fog is at the door. The glass is trembling, but not from pressure, from resonance. It wants to come in. Or maybe it already has. If anyone ever finds this recording, if there's still anything left that can play it, know that we were here. We spoke until the sea learned our names, and when the storm finally stopped breathing, we became part of it. This is Thomas Rook. Station 97.9 FM, The Last Beacon. Signing off. Wait, the static is fading. The pulse is gone. And for the first time in hours, maybe forever, the world is quiet. The silence feels like something holding its breath. And then, we are awake. It's 6:57 a.m., or what used to be morning. The clocks won't tick, but I can feel the shape of time moving through the air, heavy and slow, like a tide returning to a familiar shore. The storm's eye has opened fully now. No lightning, no wind. Just a vast, unmoving hole in the sky, wide enough to swallow cities whole. When I lean close to the cracked glass, I can see the reflection of the world inside it. Upside down, shimmering, endless. The fog has settled into stillness. It isn't pressing anymore. It's waiting. Every sound in here is too loud. Even the whisper of paper against the desk feels like blasphemy. I tried speaking before, just saying hello, and the fog shifted. Not toward me, but away, as if it didn't want me to break whatever moment this is. The signal meter on the console still glows faintly, even though the transmitter is dead. It pulses once every few seconds, but it's no longer random static. It's measured, intentional, almost breathing. I think it's listening. I think I've been part of it for a while now. When I exhale, the fog around the window moves with me. Every breath I take ripples outward, slow, graceful, as though it's following my lungs. It doesn't feel hostile anymore. It feels curious, like a child or an animal you've almost taught to trust you. There are sounds under the water outside, low, rising tones, deep as the earth itself. They move in sequences, like songs that never end, each one made of pressure and distance and memory. I don't hear them through my ears anymore. I feel them in my bones. At first, I thought the storm was a thing that came to us. Now, I think it was always here, beneath everything, waiting for something small and loud to make enough noise for it to wake. We were that noise. Maybe that's what this was all about. The world had been drowning in its own static. Cities buzzing, signals crossing, satellites screaming in their orbits. And when it finally became too much, the sea decided to answer back. I tried one last time to play the emergency broadcast tone, the long wail that used to cut through everything, but it doesn't sound the same now. The fog swallowed it whole, and when it came back, it wasn't a siren anymore. It was a voice. Low, wordless, but filled with something that wasn't malice. It was grief. A minute ago, the voice spoke again. Not through the radio, not through the fog, through me. I could hear it behind my ribs. It said, "We remember your warmth." Then the lights came on for a moment. Not electrical lights, something deeper, golden, soft, alive. The whole room glowed like it was underwater. I could see shapes moving beyond the fog, long silhouettes coiling and rising in slow arcs, too vast to understand. each one glowing faintly beneath the surface of the mist, like embers under ash. They're not attacking. They're not devouring. They're restoring. Where buildings stood, there are now ridges, smooth, curved, like the backs of sleeping giants. The city has become landscape again. Maybe that's the plan. Maybe that's what wake meant. There's a rhythm in my chest that doesn't belong to me anymore. It matches the pulse of the console, the fog, the sea, the sky. When I stop talking, it doesn't stop. I think I've been broadcasting without realizing it. Not through the tower, but through the air, through breath itself. I can feel the vibrations roll outward every time I speak. Maybe that's what it wanted all along. To speak through us, to breathe through us, to remember what it felt like to be alive. I can still see faint blue lights rising in the fog outside, like stars being born out of water. They form slow spirals, pulsing in rhythm with the heartbeat of the storm. Every few minutes, the pulse grows slower, steadier, calmer, like something vast has found peace. Maybe this is what comes after the end. Not fire, not silence, but memory. A world remade through breath and rhythm. I'm going to set the microphone down soon. The fog has reached the console now, curling around the base like a blanket. It hums when I touch it. It's warm. Before I go, if there's anyone left listening, anyone at all, know this. The world didn't end. It exhaled. We were the sound it made. This is Thomas Rook, station 97.9 FM, the last beacon. If the storm can hear me, if whatever's listening understands, we're still here. The signal meter just blinked for the last time. I think it's saying goodbye. The fog is rising. The sea is calm. The breath is complete. It must be after 7. The world has no sun, but there's a faint blue light that moves like dawn, pretending to remember itself. The fog outside isn't climbing anymore. It drifts in slow folds, brushing the broken rooftops, trailing ribbons of salt water through the air. I can't tell where the sea ends and the sky begins. Everything has taken on the same quiet rhythm. 3 long beats, a pause, another breath. The radio no longer hums. It sighs. Every few minutes the receiver wakes and murmurs a single tone, low and patient, as if to remind me that something is still listening. I think it's the same pulse that once filled the clouds, now gentler, steadier. When it fades, the silence that follows is clean, like a page wiped blank. I went down to the street, what's left of it. The water has settled halfway up the buildings. It's clear now, almost glass. Beneath it, I can see the outlines of cars, fences, the curve of a street lamp. They're covered in a thin film that moves on its own, rippling with color when the wind touches it. When I leaned close, I saw my reflection split into 2, one above the surface, one below, both breathing at different times. There's no sound of people, no sirens, no birds. Only the slow exhale of the sea through the cracks in the stones. Every so often, the air fills with a faint ringing, like a distant bell beneath water. It lasts exactly as long as one breath. Then nothing. I found the cardboard note again, the one that said, "Don't let it hear you breathe." The ink has run, but a new line has appeared beneath it in salt. It breathes with you now. Maybe that's true. When I draw air, the fog nearest to me curls closer, not threatening, just matching the shape of my lungs. My heartbeat has slowed until I can't tell where it begins and the world ends. A whisper runs through the static on the console, the same voice that guided us through the night. It's softer now, no longer asking, no longer warning. Just words without weight. The breath is even. The water is remembering. The storm has learned its name. I don't know if that voice is the sea, or the sky, or all of us mixed together. Maybe when the world went quiet enough, everything that was separate became one long sound. I walked to the doorway a few minutes ago. The fog parted just enough to show the horizon. There's a line of light out there, thin, gold, trembling. It doesn't rise or fall. It just stays, like the heartbeat of something vast at rest. Beneath it, I can see the coils we saw from the satellites, now motionless, draped across the ocean floor like sleeping roots. The air tastes clean, not burnt, not wet, just new. The smell of dust is gone. The smell of salt is softer, almost sweet. When I speak, the fog answers in small ripples that spread and vanish. I think it's time to stop talking. All night I tried to hold the country together with words, filling the silence so it wouldn't close over us. But now the silence feels different. It isn't hunger. It's peace. A silence that holds, not hides. I'm leaving the mic open. If anyone finds this, the transmitter will carry what's left of the sound until the power fades completely. Maybe it will drift through the static for years, maybe forever. Maybe it will reach another shore, where someone tunes in and hears this heartbeat of ours. If you are that someone, if you can still hear, remember that once there was a storm that learned to breathe. And when it finally rested, it left behind a world quiet enough to begin again. This is Thomas Rook, station 97.9 FM, the last beacon. Breath steady, signal strong, silence kind. Good night. It's 8:42 a.m., or so says the cracked watch face lying beside the console. The second hand trembles but never completes a turn. The color outside has shifted again. No longer blue, not gray either. Something softer, like the inside of an eyelid when light touches through skin. The fog has thinned to a mist that glows on its own, each droplet catching that same faint gold I saw before. The water level has stopped rising. The world has stopped moving. I can hear the hum of the transmitter still, a heartbeat too slow to belong to a machine. When I touch the metal casing, it feels alive, warm, breathing. There's no power source anymore. No cables humming. The fog is feeding it somehow, letting it whisper back to the horizon. If you're hearing this, it means the storm left a path open. It means the world still wants to speak. The streets are gone, the names are gone, only outlines remain. Foundations beneath clear water, roads that shimmer like scars. Everything is smoother, quieter, almost kind. The walls here have lost their echo. When I talk, the sound doesn't bounce back. It sinks, like the air itself is listening politely. I walked onto the roof at first light, or what passes for it. The wind was gentle, carrying no salt, no sting. The sea stretches in all directions now, a single body of water breathing in slow rhythm. I could see faint mounds beneath the surface, long arcs where cities used to stand. They rise and fall like the backs of resting whales. Every so often, light moves through the deep, not lightning, something slower, sweeping. It moves like thought. Each time it passes, the fog hums, the transmitter glows, and I feel it behind my ribs. I think that's the new world's pulse. I found the old logbook in the drawer. The first page is from years ago, when we still joked about bad weather shutting the station down. The last entry I wrote before the storm reads, test transmission for emergency drill. I never wrote another until now. Entry. The storm was not weather. The fog was not air. The silence was not death. The world has become breath. If you find this notebook, if paper still means anything, add your own line. Let the new sea keep our words the way it keeps shells. I've started hearing faint signals again, slow, even, rhythmic. One came in from the north an hour ago, a man's voice, thin as thread. He said, "We're inland. We're above the waterline. The ground glows at night." Then another from far south. "We're floating where the cliffs were. It's calm. We hear the same hum. So there are others. Not many, but enough. Scattered voices finding each other in the static. The storm left us threads instead of walls. Sometimes when the fog parts, I can see reflections in the water, faces I recognize from old transmissions, smiling faintly, eyes closed, mouths moving without sound. They look peaceful, not gone, changed. I tried to broadcast the national emergency tone one last time, just to see what would happen. The console didn't resist. The sound that came out wasn't a siren. It was a chord, long, resonant, beautiful. It drifted out across the mist, and the water shimmered, rippled, then stilled again. When the note ended, the transmitter whispered a single word back. "Remember." That's all this world wants now. Not survival, not rebuilding, just memory, steady and gentle. The storm has settled into the rhythm of a sleeping animal. The air moves through my lungs without effort. Every time I speak, I feel it echo through the mist, as if the world itself is repeating after me in a whisper too soft to fear. There's nothing left to warn about. Nothing left to fear. Only this. An unbroken connection between breath and water, and the small voices that won't stop trying to reach one another. I think that's what it means to live now. I'll keep the transmitter open. It doesn't run on fuel anymore. It runs on rhythm, on the heartbeat of whatever the world became. If you're listening from the other side of the storm, follow the hum. Tune just below the static. You'll find us there. Every voice, every breath, every last word we left floating in the fog. This is Thomas Rook, station 97.9 FM, the last beacon. The air is calm. The sea is quiet. We're still here, and the frequency is forever. It's close to 9, I think. The mist glows like it's remembering the sun. I can see farther now, past the roofline, past the drowned high street, all the way to the new horizon where water meets what used to be sky. The line isn't straight anymore. It curves, faintly, as if the world has drawn itself into a single soft bowl. The air feels different, thicker, but kind. I breathe in, and it stays with me, like it doesn't want to leave. The fog doesn't whisper names anymore. It hums, low, warm, patient. The same hum moves through the water and the tower and, I think, through me. When I touch the microphone, the sound climbs through my fingertips and settles behind my eyes. I don't need to press the transmit key now. The tower knows when I'm ready to speak. There's a rhythm to the calm. 3 breaths in, 5 out, 3 at rest. The same pattern as before, only slower. The storm hasn't gone. It's learned to sleep. What's left of Britain drifts beneath a single sheet of water that breathes in time with the clouds. Cities have become quiet reefs. Roads are silver scars under the surface. Once in a while, when the light hits right, you can see shapes moving through the deep, slow, enormous, unhurried, not monsters, just the bones of the old world rolling over in its dreams. I don't feel alone. Not really. There's a new kind of company here, one you can't see but always sense. The air carries traces of voices, faint syllables that bloom and fade before you can catch them. Some sound like the people we lost. Others feel older, like echoes that were waiting under the seabed for us to fall quiet enough to hear. I spoke the name of the storm aloud once more, Aurelia, and nothing terrible happened. The air shivered, the water outside drew one long breath, and then everything glowed. Maybe it forgave us for fearing it. Maybe it wanted to be remembered. I keep thinking about how small my words felt that first night, how desperate I was to hold the edges of a country together with sound. And now, here, I realize that sound is all we ever were. Waves through air, through water, through time. We never ended. We were absorbed. If you can hear this on any dial, it means you've survived the remaking. You're inside the breath now, part of it. There's no more north or south, no borders, no shore to cling to. Only the slow heartbeat of the world and the quiet between pulses. Every so often, the transmitter picks up a shimmer, tiny bursts of signal, like raindrops on glass. I play them back, and they become small stories. A laugh, a lullaby, someone humming while mending a net. The sea has learned to remember us in moments, not monuments. That might be better. I'm going to set this last message to repeat. The tower doesn't need my hand anymore. It hums on its own, tuned to the rhythm of everything living. The frequency will drift but never die. If you ever stumble upon it, you'll know it by the calm it brings, by the feeling that the air itself is listening. The storm is gone. The gods are sleeping. The breath remains. This is Thomas Rook, station 97.9 FM, the last beacon. If you can still hear me, breathe once for the world that was, and once more for the world that is. The signal will hold. The silence is kind. Good morning from the sea. The watch stopped completely. There's no hour to name anymore. The light just moves in slow circles, brightening and dimming like the pulse of a living lung. The water outside the window has turned clear enough that I can see the old pier under it. The boards covered in something that glows faintly. Threads of gold that rise and fall with the tide. They look like veins in a sleeping hand. The tower hums without me. The microphone is cold, but the signal meter still flickers each time I breathe. Somewhere beyond this mist, someone might still be listening. Or maybe the world itself listens, replaying the shape of my voice for the sake of remembering. I went outside again. The air no longer stings. It's warm, heavy, and filled with the smell of rain that hasn't fallen yet. When I stepped into the shallows, the surface didn't break. It folded around my boots and held me. Each step made a soft ringing sound, like glass being tapped from beneath. When I stopped walking, the ripples kept going, moving outward until they joined the rhythm of the sea. On the horizon, I can see what used to be wind turbines. They don't spin anymore, but they glow at their tips, each one pulsing with light like a heartbeat, slow, steady, in time with everything else. Between them float shapes, too smooth to be wreckage. Some rise and vanish, as if the ocean is inhaling. The silence has changed again. It isn't empty, it's layered. If you listen closely, you can hear the memory of every storm, every gull, every word ever carried by wind. They move through each other, soft, endless, kind. A sound just came through the transmitter, a faint chord, Not music, not static. It's the same tone I heard when the siren became a hymn. It lasts exactly the length of one breath. I think it's how the world says we're still here. I don't feel afraid. The fog that once pressed against the glass now drifts through the open doorway, like mist through morning fields. When it touches my skin, I feel warmth, then quiet. The edges of my thoughts loosen, carried away one by one until all that's left is the steady rhythm of air. This isn't death. This is the drift, the slow merging of breath with the thing that learned to breathe again. I'll keep talking until the voice inside the signal no longer needs mine. Then the tower can hum on its own, whispering this same story across the new sea. If you find this frequency, don't try to answer. Just listen. Let your lungs fall into the rhythm. The world will hear you. This is Thomas Rook, station 97.9 FM. The last beacon. The storm sleeps. The air remembers. We are the echo it chose to keep. It's past 10 now, or what feels like it. The light has softened into a color I don't have a word for, somewhere between morning and memory. It ripples across the surface of the new sea like warmth caught in glass. The fog doesn't rise anymore. It drifts low, thin, woven through everything like silk smoke. The air hums the way a cello string does after you pluck it, holding the note long after your fingers have let go. The building is quiet. The radio tower leans slightly toward the east, its reflection stretched beneath the water, like a ghost repeating itself. I don't remember when the sound of waves stopped meaning danger. Now it sounds like breathing in a room after a long cry, tired, gentle, certain. I've begun to hear things that aren't words but feel like them, slow harmonies carried on the air. When I listen long enough, I can almost make out sentences. They're not English, but they feel older than speech, closer to what the wind might say if it could choose its own language. I think the sea is talking to itself again, testing the shape of thought. A line of light has appeared across the horizon. It moves too evenly to be sunlight. It bends as it travels, turning the mist gold where it passes. Wherever the light touches, the fog lifts, and what's left behind looks new. Clean streets beneath shallow water, rooftops softened by moss, reflections like sky. Maybe this is how the world heals. Slowly, one breath at a time. Every so often, the transmitter catches a stray whisper from somewhere inland. The voices are softer now, steady, calm. They talk about growing things. Grasses pushing through cracks, fish returning to flooded parks, the sound of rain that isn't angry anymore. One voice, a woman, said, "We built a raft from doors. The tide takes us where it wants. We call it following the breath. That's what life is now, following the breath." The hum through the console has faded into a single tone. It doesn't need tending. It hums because it wants to. I can feel it in my spine, steady, balanced, the way the world feels when it forgives itself. If you're hearing this, know that we made it through. Not untouched, but transformed. The storm wasn't an ending. It was a correction. The planet exhaled and found its rhythm again, and in doing so, it taught us how small our noise had become. The fog outside has begun to clear completely. The sea mirrors the sky so perfectly now that I can't tell which one breathes first. I'm standing at the edge of what used to be the station window, watching that line of gold grow thicker, slower, fuller. I think that's the horizon, learning to breathe again. This is Thomas Rook, station 97.9 FM, the last beacon. The air is still. The sea is kind, and the world remembers us. If anyone finds this signal, take a breath with me. In through the calm, out through the light. That's all that's left to do now. Good night, or good morning, whatever this new world calls it. It's hard to measure time in this quiet. The light never fades or brightens. It only turns, like a slow wave rolling across the world. The air smells of salt and something green, the scent that comes after rain touches soil for the first time in months. I can hear insects again. Tiny sounds, fragile but sure. The rhythm of small life returning. From the roof, I can see movement beneath the water. Whole forests sway under there, branches coated in glassy threads that catch the glow. When the tide breathes out, the tops of trees break the surface, dripping light instead of leaves. Birds, different ones, softer colors, circle them without fear. Their calls sound like echoes of the old world, edited by time until they fit the new one. I spoke into the transmitter an hour ago, just to see if anyone might answer. No words came back, only a chorus of tones. They rose and fell together, layered like wind through reeds. Maybe it's the sea speaking in its own way. Maybe it's the last of the towers humming to one another through the fog. Either way, the sound is gentle. It doesn't want anything. It just exists. The waterline keeps retreating, not fast, just enough to uncover steps, bits of pavement, the edges of shop fronts. Moss already coats them. The planet wastes no time. It never did. I think I'll leave the building soon. There's a small boat caught against the sidewall, a fisherman's skiff half filled with rainwater, still tied to a post that leads nowhere. It rocks in rhythm with the world's pulse. I'll take a few cans, the notebook, and whatever breath I have left, and follow the current. The signal will stay. I've tuned the transmitter to the lowest hum, the one that sits between hearing and feeling. It will keep repeating the story until the fog finally forgets the sound of words. After that, it can sing its own. If you're hearing this, you're already part of it. The new tide doesn't ask for prayers or apologies. It asks for stillness, for listening. The storm is memory now. The breath has become wind again. This is Thomas Rook, Station 97.9 FM, the last beacon. The tower stands, the sea moves, and the silence forgives. I'm going to follow the tide. If you ever hear a voice riding the hum of the water, that will be me -- or what's left of the world trying to remember how to speak softly. It's noon, or what would have been noon before the clocks drowned. The light has settled into a permanent half-glow. Shadows no longer stretch. They just hum quietly where they fall. I'm sitting in the skiff now, the one that waited outside the station. The rope untied itself during the last breath of the tide, and now I drift. Slowly, without aim. The tower fades behind me like a memory that's forgiven itself. The water is calm, clear enough to see the outlines of the old world below. Roads curl like veins across the seabed. Rooftops gleam like shells. I can even make out the broadcast tower's reflection, stretching down into the deep where no wind stirs. Every few minutes, a shimmer passes under the hull, a pulse, gentle as touch, like the world reminding me it's still breathing. There's no horizon anymore. The sea curves upward into the mist, smooth and endless. It's not frightening. It feels like being inside a heartbeat. The receiver beside me still hums. Its dial glows faintly, though there's no battery, no wire. Every so often it picks up fragments, small pieces of human sound. A laugh, the creak of an oar, someone humming a lullaby. The voices overlap like ripples, never colliding. Maybe they're real people somewhere far off, or maybe they're memories the fog has learned to replay. I don't try to tell the difference. Once, I hear a child's voice through the static say, "It's warmer now." I nod, even though no one can see. She's right. The air feels alive again. I pass what used to be a bridge. Only the tips of the arches remain, covered in gold moss that shines like wet metal. Birds perch there, pale shapes, calm, unhurried. When they fly, they don't cry out. Their wings make a whisper that sounds like wind through grass. I dip my hand into the water. It doesn't resist. It accepts. My reflection wavers, and for a moment, it isn't me. It's hundreds of faces, faint and shifting, all breathing the same air. Not ghosts. Memories condensed into form. They blink, smile faintly, and fade. The radio crackles. A man's voice comes through, slow and soft, almost part of the sea itself. "Thomas," the breath holds. The world listens. It's my own voice. An old recording, maybe. Or maybe the ocean keeping its promise. I don't answer. I let it echo until it fades into the hum. The sky above is changing again. Thin strands of color move through it. Reds, greens, blues, slow as smoke, bright as coral. They spiral toward a point directly overhead. At the center, there's stillness. The same stillness that lived at the heart of the storm. Only now, it isn't dark. It glows, gold and white, like the pupil of a waking eye. I know what it means. It's not watching. It's remembering. The air carries words again, faint, sung rather than spoken. We breathe, we rise, we rest. The rhythm of it matches the rocking of the boat, the beat of my pulse, the hum of the sea. Everything is one motion now. I'm writing this on the back of the logbook, the final entry. The ink runs because of the mist, but the words don't need to last long. The world already knows them. Entry. The broadcast continues without me. The air remembers. The sea forgives. The voice belongs to the tide now. The receiver hums louder. The frequency slides upward until the air itself sings. It's not painful. It's beautiful. It feels like the inside of a long-held breath being let go. If you find this, if you can still hear the signal of 97.9 FM, you'll know the tower didn't die. It became part of the storm's heart. It still whispers our names, carried by the tide. This is Thomas Rook's station 97.9 FM, the last beacon. The journey's end is quiet. The breath has come home. If you're listening, you already belong to the calm. Breathe once and let the sea answer. I can't tell how long I've been drifting. The skiff doesn't move fast enough to measure distance. It just slides along the skin of the world, carried wherever the new current wants to go. The air above me is weightless, folded into itself, a sky turned to silk. Sometimes the fog thins enough that I can see the edge of the old coastline far below, shadowed like a forgotten drawing. The water has changed color again. It's pale green now, almost luminous, and warm enough that I can trail my hand through it without a shiver. It feels alive, not in the way a creature moves, but in the way breath lingers between lips. Every so often, bubbles rise from below, slow and steady, as though the sea itself is exhaling. The radio whispers on its own now. No dials, no interference, just small bursts of sound that come and go. Some are human, a sigh, a half-formed word. Others are less certain, tones stretched thin like wind across metal. I stopped trying to translate them hours ago. I think they're not messages anymore. They're memories turning into music. I pass what looks like the remains of a city square, the roof lines softened into dunes of glass. Between them swim shapes. Fish, maybe, though they glow faint blue and move too gracefully for anything I remember from the old world. They weave through the ruins like caretakers, stirring the dust into spirals that catch the light. When I close my eyes, I can hear the same rhythm in everything. One breath to rise, one to fall, one to rest. 3, 5, 3. Slowed now to something human. The voice that spoke my name before returns. It's quieter, closer, woven into the sound of the waves. The breath holds, Thomas. The tide keeps your words. It isn't frightening. It's gentle, like a parent speaking through a wall. I whisper back without meaning to, and the words drift from me like smoke. Then remember them well. The fog stirs in answer, and for a heartbeat, I can see light deep below, coiling in vast arcs. It moves like thought, or like sleep. I don't think there's land anymore, not the way there used to be. There's only shallower places where the sea slows down to dream. I can feel one beneath me now, a rise in the water's heartbeat, a subtle thickening of the current. The skiff turns itself toward it, as though something unseen has taken hold of the rope. The water grows brighter as I approach. The glow comes from beneath, not above. Miles of light spreading outward in slow spirals, like veins under translucent skin. In the center of it all stands a shape that might once have been the seabed, now lifted upward, a hill of light. The surface trembles as I drift over it. The radio hums louder, matching its tone. I realize what it is. It's the storm's heart, the place where it began breathing. I let the skiff rest there. The water under me is too bright to stare at directly, but it isn't blinding. It feels like standing inside a pulse. Every heartbeat of the world hums through my bones. The air smells of rain that will never fall again. The voice comes one last time, everywhere at once, soft and certain. The storm has learned its shape. The sea has learned your voice. Rest now. We'll keep the signal. I place the microphone on the seat beside me. The red light on it fades, then brightens once, a long, slow blink, like an eye closing. For a long time, I just listen, to the hum, to the world's quiet breathing, to the feeling that everything broken has found a way to keep living. This is Thomas Rook, Station 97.9 FM, the last beacon. The transmission will continue without me now. If you find the frequency, you'll hear the breath, not the words. That will be enough. The tide is calm. The air is whole, and the light beneath is endless. The skiff stopped moving sometime in the night, or in whatever passes for night now. The sea has become a mirror that breathes. Every ripple folds back on itself. Every sound returns softer than it left. I think this is the center of what used to be the storm. There's no horizon here, only reflection. When I lean over the edge, I see sky looking up through water, waiting for a reason to rise. The radio has gone quiet except for one tone, steady, patient, the same note that carried me this far. It no longer hums through circuits. It lives in the air itself. If I whisper, the tone shifts a little, like it's listening. If I stay silent, it steadies again. We've learned each other's rhythm. Below me, the glow that once burned like lightning has cooled into slow threads. They wind through the depths in patterns that resemble handwriting, lines that break and rejoin, writing the memory of everything that drowned. When I listen close enough, the light hums the same pattern I spoke for months. 3 breaths, 5 beats, 3 at rest. I think the world took that pattern from me and made it its own heartbeat. When I close my eyes, I can still see the old country, hills above mist, trains cutting through rain, windows lit at dusk. None of it feels lost anymore. It feels absorbed, like warmth returning to water. Maybe this is what the end was for, to let the noise of life settle until the quiet could speak. There are other boats now. I can't see them, but I feel their weight shifting the current. Every so often the radio catches faint traces of voices. Some I remember, some I don't. They speak softly, half singing, half breathing, and every sentence ends the same way. We're still here. The words don't echo. They dissolve into the tone and stay there. The ocean keeps them the way the sky keeps light. I'm writing these last lines in the margin of the logbook. The paper is soft with salt, the ink more shadow than color. It doesn't matter if it fades. The sea already knows every word. Entry, final, the broadcast has become the breath. The world listens in sleep. The storm and I are the same voice now. I'll set the radio down in the water before I go. The current will carry the signal, not far, but far enough for someone to hear. Maybe the sound will reach another drift of survivors, or maybe it will just circle the world forever, a whisper reminding the new tide how to keep time. If you're listening, wherever you are, don't try to answer. Just breathe once for yourself, once for everything that was, and let the air rest. The sea will understand. This is Thomas Rook's station 97.9 FM. The last beacon. The light is gentle. The water is kind. The world is quiet again. Transmission complete. I woke to a sound so faint I thought it was memory. Not the hum. Not the low pulse that has filled every breath since the sea took back its rhythm. Something higher, thinner, like glass turning to song. It drifted across the surface and found the hull of the skiff, humming through the wood until it reached my ribs. The tone matched my heartbeat for a moment, then faded, leaving warmth in its place. The air tastes different now. There's sweetness under the salt, the scent of things growing. I can't see the source, but the water around me is dotted with small green flecks. Tiny leaves, maybe, or seeds. They move against the current, not with it. When they touch the side of the boat, they spark, little bursts of gold that vanish before I can catch them. The logbook lies open beside me. The ink from last night's entry has bled into a pattern that looks like a map. Lines spread outward from the page, faint but alive, leading back toward the horizon I left behind. Maybe that's where the old land breathes beneath the tide. Maybe that's what's calling me home. The radio hums softly, still powered by nothing but the air. A new sound slips through it. 2 short notes, 1 long, repeating. The world's way of saying I remember. It's strange how comforting it is, this endless conversation between silence and sound. I wonder if this is how the sea prays. Beneath me, light moves again. It's slower now, cooler. I lean over and see shapes rising from the depths. Not monstrous, not even large, just outlines, faint as shadows under ice. They're people, or what's left of people, walking across the seabed like moonlight in water. They don't struggle. They drift upright, calm, their faces turned upward, mouths open as if still listening. I whisper to them. I say, "We made it through." And in answer, the sea exhales. The boat rocks once, gentle as a sigh. The static returns, quieter than before. Through it, a voice I almost recognize. "Thomas." The breath is whole. Then nothing but the slow tone again. The voice wasn't mine this time. It was softer, higher. Maybe the child, maybe the sea itself, maybe both. The light beneath the water thickens, rolling outward from the skiff in a circle of pale gold. Every wave that touches it carries the pattern farther, until the whole ocean seems to glow from within. I can see mountains under there now, their peaks soft with silt, forests shimmering in the deep. The old world hasn't died. It's growing transparent, folding into this one like pages pressed together. I think I understand what the breath really was. Not destruction, not cleansing, just the world's way of beginning again, with the air and the water and the memory of all that ever spoke into a microphone or prayed into static. The radio clicks once. The needle moves on its own, finding the frequency it wants. I let it. The hum fades, replaced by a long, smooth note that seems to stretch forever, until it isn't a sound anymore. It's a feeling, the same calm that fills everything now. I close the logbook. There's nothing left to write. The world is already writing itself. I will leave the skiff soon. The water below is warm, and the light under it feels like welcome. I'll take one last breath, and if the sea wants it, I'll give it freely. If anyone ever finds this, know that the signal never ended. It only changed shape. Every wave that breaks, every gust that moves the fog, every breath that leaves your lungs carries the same pattern. 3, 5, 3, rest. This is Thomas Rook, station 97.9 FM. The last beacon. The voice is quiet now. The world speaks for itself. Listen carefully, and you'll hear us in the calm. We are the echo that keeps. The light woke me before the air did. It wasn't the hard gold of the storm's heart, or the bruised gray that came after, but something softer, color without edge. It soaked through my clothes, through the hull, until everything around me felt lighter by half. The ocean has turned clear enough that I can see the bottom now, miles down, curved like the inside of a bowl. Threads of light crawl along it in spirals, joining and splitting again, tracing the shape of breath itself. When I touch the water, it doesn't give. It lifts to meet my hand, surface folding around my fingers the way lungs fold around air. For the first time since the storm began, there is no hum, no static, just a slow rhythm rising from the deep, steady as sleep. The world has remembered how to rest. The radio sits on the bench beside me. The dial no longer glows, but the speaker breathes. Every few minutes it releases a single word, spoken in hundreds of voices at once. Old, young, human, not. Here. The word drifts across the water and fades into distance, carried by the smallest wind. It's the same word the sea used before language, the sound that meant alive. All around me, small islands of light are breaking the surface. Mounds of glass and sand hardened into shapes that almost resemble Earth. Moss blooms on them the moment they touch the air. Tiny birds land, shake themselves dry, and begin to sing, as if they had always known the tune. The world is building again, not with stone or noise, but with quiet. I hear other transmitters sometimes, thin threads of signal, nothing more than whispers. South Ridge clear. Children laughing. The tide plants seeds. The static between them sounds like breathing. Maybe it's the same network of voices I used to broadcast through, still carrying the faint memory of us. Maybe the sea kept that part of the storm, the one that wanted to connect rather than destroy. I wrote a line in the logbook, the final one I think I'll ever need. The frequency has become air. Everything that speaks on it. I can see a ridge of pale sand forming ahead, the first dry land since the night the fog rose. It glows faintly, pulsing once every few seconds. The boat turns itself toward it, gliding without sound. The closer I drift, the louder the pulse becomes. Not thunder, not heartbeat, but the sound of waves folding against themselves. When I step out, the water doesn't cling. It parts cleanly, sliding away as if it knows I'm meant to walk here. The sand is warm, almost breathing. Each step I take leaves a print that fills with light instead of water. The sky bends close enough to touch. I set the radio on the ground. The wind lifts through it, and the static becomes song, thousands of voices humming in time, every breath ever taken replayed in perfect harmony. If anyone finds this place, they'll find the transmitter still singing, tuned to 97.9 FM, the frequency that learned how to keep a heart beating after everything else stopped. This is Thomas Rook Station 97.9 FM, the last beacon. The tide is calm, the air is new, the sea remembers. End of transmission. I don't know how long I slept on the new shore. The sand was warm enough that it felt like a heartbeat under my back. A small one, the kind you feel when you rest a palm against someone's wrist. When I woke, the air was full of color, thin layers, soft as misted glass. The sea had pulled back a little farther. What it left behind was shimmering, wet ground studded with green shoots that hadn't been there yesterday. The wind carries voices now, but they aren't words. They're notes, short bursts of tone that travel from dune to dune. Sometimes the notes line up just right, and you can hear a melody, a song made of all the frequencies we use to fill the world with. The planet has learned harmony. I walked until the water was just a glint behind me. The ground rises here. It smells of salt and sap, both new. The air hums faintly with the same pulse that's lived in me since the storm. 3, 5, 3. But even that feels lighter, more human, like a heartbeat that finally belongs to the body again. Ahead, half buried in the sand, I found another radio tower. Not mine. Not bent or broken, just changed. Its surface ripples when the wind touches it, as if it's woven from liquid metal. The cables that feed it disappear straight into the soil. When I laid my hand on its base, warmth climbed through my arm. The tower breathed once, yes, breathed, and a quiet signal spilled out across the horizon. Through the wind came a voice I didn't know. Signal holds. The land is awake. Then a pause, the sound of waves a long way off, and another line, softer. We are many now. I wanted to answer, but the radio inside me did it first. The pulse under my ribs sped up. The tower brightened, casting light in thin rings that rolled outward until the whole shore shimmered. For the first time since the storm, I felt small again, but not afraid. just part of something bigger, breathing beside me. The new world smells of salt, soil, and metal cooling after rain. The sea doesn't roar, it whispers. The fog has become clouds again, low and white, drifting slowly toward the open horizon. When sunlight finally finds a path through them, it scatters into 1,000 colors that settle over the ground like dust. Everything shines. Everything waits. I sit at the base of the tower with the logbook open on my knee. The ink runs with moisture, but the words don't need to last now. The sea, the air, the light, they'll keep the story better than paper ever could. I write one final line anyway, because that's what voices do. They mark their place in the breath. We were here. We listened. The world answered. The tower hums again, steady, calm. The light climbs its length and spills into the sky. It feels like sunrise used to feel, clean, forgiving, alive. This is Thomas Rook. Station 97.9 FM, the last beacon. The frequency is open. The world is breathing. Welcome to the first dawn. The dawn never fades now. It grows. The light doesn't rise and fall like before. It hums, layered, endless, moving through colors that have no names. The tower behind me hums along with it, each vibration spreading across the sand like circles on still water. I can feel them in my bones. The world has turned into a single, slow broadcast, one that needs no words. The air here is different. It carries the memory of every voice that's ever touched a microphone. I hear them when the wind shifts, murmurs, laughter, whispers, half-sung prayers, all of it blending into a single current of sound that rolls across the new horizon. When I speak, the world doesn't echo me. It harmonizes. I think I'm standing on what used to be the spine of the island. Far below, through clear water, I can see the ridges of streets, the patterns of old fields. They gleam faintly, woven through with roots and coral. Something green moves down there. Plants, maybe, or the beginnings of new cities that understand how to live inside the tide. Every so often, a pulse of gold travels along the water's surface, moving outward until it disappears into the haze. Each pulse carries a tone. Each tone feels like a message, and though I don't know the language, I understand the meaning. Stay. The sea is calmer than it has ever been. When I kneel and touch it, the water doesn't ripple. It responds. It shapes itself around my hand, forming rings that drift outward, small radio waves made of light. The ocean transmits now. A voice comes through the stillness, low and kind. You kept the signal. We found it. It's not one voice, but many, woven together until they sound like one presence. The wind bends toward me as it speaks, brushing the tower, lifting sand into the air. For a moment, I can see faces forming inside the light. Some I know. Listeners, callers, people who once sent messages through the fog. Others are strangers. All of them are smiling. We are the tide now, the voice says. The frequency is everywhere. The radio at my side hums an answer. The old dial glows, but the numbers are gone. Instead, there's a single word etched across the faceplate, faint and perfect. Home. I think I finally understand. The storm wasn't punishment or wrath. It was the world's way of tuning itself, clearing the static we built, reminding us that sound and breath were the same thing all along. Every broadcast, every voice carried across airwaves, every whisper into the dark. It all became part of the planet's long inhale. Now, it exhales. The tower flashes once, bright enough to turn the sea white, and then settles into steady light. The hum beneath it deepens until I can feel it behind my eyes. I close them and breathe, and the world breathes with me. If anyone finds this signal, know that the frequency never ends. It's in the wind, the tide, the pulse beneath your skin. When you breathe, you keep it alive. This is Thomas Rook's Station 97.9 FM, the last beacon. The air is full of voices. The sea carries every word. And somewhere in the calm between them, the new world sings.